Zuri Adeyemi thought she'd prepared herself for this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for the way Choi Minseo went completely still above her, his breath catching sharply as understanding crashed over him. "You're a virgin," he said, voice thick with disbelief and something that sounded like awe. His dark eyes widened, searching her face as if seeing her for the first time. "You've never been with anyone." She felt heat flood her cheeks but refused to look away. "Does that change things?" His hands, which had been confident moments ago, now trembled visibly against her bare skin. "Change things," he exhaled shakily, something raw and vulnerable consuming his expression. "Zuri, He stopped, swallowed hard. "I'm not the kind of man who deserves to be a virgin's first." Her fingers traced the old knife wound along his ribs. "I chose you anyway." That simple statement seemed to shatter him completely. His forehead dropped to her shoulder, and she felt his entire body shudder with the weight of what she was offering. "You're giving me something pure," he whispered against her neck, voice breaking. "And I've spent my whole life destroying anything pure I touched." She tilted his face up, forcing him to meet her eyes. "Maybe it's time you learned to cherish something instead." Something shifted in his expression then, fear melting into fierce devotion. When he kissed her, it was achingly slow, reverent, like he was terrified of damaging her. The ruthless enforcer everyone feared was coming undone because a virgin had chosen to trust him. But 18 hours earlier, she'd been painting in her studio, and he'd been the deadly stranger who'd walked in looking for someone to eliminate. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below. Morning rose over Seoul like splintered crystal, scattering sharp light across the windows of Inkwell Dreams. The studio carried the scent of drying pigment and warm barley tea, its walls covered in half-finished artwork painted in fierce shades of gold and red. Zuri Adeyemi faced a towering canvas, her brush moving with disciplined intensity as she painted a woman snapping iron restraints. This studio was hers. Every stained tile, every reclaimed bench, every flaw she'd masked with color instead of apology. Her sanctuary. Her revolt against a world insisting girls like her had no place here. The door burst open. 4 men barged inside, shoes squeaking across polished floors. Their leader flaunted a flashy tracksuit that screamed debt, silver rings glinting like improvised weapons. His gaze prowled over the room with greedy familiarity. "Nice little spot you've got here," he said, voice dripping forced warmth. "Bet you could use some protection. Neighborhood's tough for outsiders." Zuri didn't break her stroke. "I manage myself." The second man, broad, bitter, kicked her supply cart. Paint tubes scattered like spilled guts. A college kid by the window gasped. An elderly woman clutched her bag, torn between running and staying. Zuri's hand froze. She placed her brush down slowly, muscles tight as wire. Her pulse pounded, but her expression stayed cold. She turned, boots silent as she approached them. "Pick them up." The leader scoffed. "Make me." In one fluid movement, Zuri seized his thumb, bent it brutally, and forced him to his knees. He screamed, face twisted as pain tore through him. "Does that help?" she asked, voice velvet hiding steel. Murmurs shivered around the room. "She's mad. You saw that. That girl doesn't fear anything." At booth 12, someone watched closely. Choi Minseo sat tucked in a shadowed corner, black turtleneck blending into darkness, silver-threaded hair hiding eyes sharp enough to stop a heartbeat. He'd been scrolling his phone or pretending to. Now it sat forgotten as he observed this unshaken woman dismantling 4 grown men with calm precision. Something shifted inside him. Strange, volatile, hunger. The third thug charged, fist ready. "You're dead, you." Before he finished, Minseo rose. His chair scraped the floor. A small sound, yet everyone knew what it meant when Choi Minseo stood. The room chilled instantly. The leader, still kneeling under Zuri's grip, turned pale. Minseo didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence alone was a threat sharpened over years. His gaze, blank and lethal, crossed the men like a blade choosing where to cut. They fled, stumbling over scattered supplies as they bolted for the exit. The entrance bells clanged wildly as they escaped into the morning streets. Silence slammed down. Zuri exhaled, shoulders loosening. Only then did she notice the man still standing, watching her with eyes that seemed to read straight through her. "Thanks for the assist," she said, steady despite her racing heartbeat. Minseo's face didn't shift. "You didn't need assistance. Someone had to step in." His lips almost twitched, almost. Zuri bent to collect the fallen paints. Before she reached one, he lowered himself beside her. His movements were precise, surgical, hands accustomed to ending lives, now handling paint tubes with startling gentleness. "You shouldn't need to defend this place," he murmured, almost to himself. She glanced at him. "Who says I needed defending?" The words struck him deeper than any punch. For an instant, the world shrank to her, this fierce, steady woman who treated him like a human being. Zuri stood, wiping smudges onto her jeans. "Want something? Coffee? Tea?" Minseo blinked, thrown off. No fear, no shrinking, just simple kindness. "Black coffee," he said softly. "Free for chasing off my problems." He returned to booth 12, something warm and unfamiliar stirring in his chest. As Zuri filled a ceramic mug with Ethiopian roast, she didn't realize she'd done the impossible. She'd thanked Choi Minseo like he was ordinary. And Minseo didn't realize something far more dangerous. This woman had entered his orbit, and he wasn't planning to let her leave it. The following morning, the bells chimed at 6:45. Zuri glanced up from her sketch tablet, expecting Mr. Park for meditation class. Instead, Choi Minseo walked in. He wore charcoal today, sweater, trousers, everything muted except his pale skin and those razor-sharp eyes. He moved like smoke shaped into a man, soundless, deliberate. "You're early," Zuri noted. "You open early." She couldn't help the small smile. "Same booth." He nodded. Zuri poured coffee without needing to ask and set it down. "Black again." "Yes," he paused, the word fighting its way out. "Thank you." It sounded wrong in his voice, as though gratitude wasn't a language he spoke. "Mean it when you say it," Zuri teased lightly. "Helps it sound less robotic." "I don't do emotion." "I noticed, but you can practice. It's good for you." For the first time in years, uncertainty crossed Choi Minseo's face. Customers wandered in, students with animation deadlines, singers planning album covers, retired educators reminiscing. Minseo studied them like a biologist observing a species he barely recognized. Ordinary, peaceful, the type of life he'd forfeited long ago. After long silence, he asked, "Why confront those men yesterday?" Zuri tilted her head. "If I don't stand up for my space, who will?" The answer settled heavily inside him. "Most people choose survival over dignity," he said. "I'm not most people." No, she absolutely was. For 3 weeks, Minseo arrived every morning at 6:45 without fail. Same booth, same coffee, same quiet observation. He never smiled, rarely spoke more than necessary, but something hummed between them, invisible cords pulling tighter with each sunrise. One foggy afternoon, mist clinging to the windows like ghosts, Zuri noticed him staring at her latest piece. She angled the canvas toward him. A woman dancing in flames, laughing. "What do you see?" He studied it with the intensity of someone analyzing a threat. "It resembles you." "How so?" "Unafraid." He paused, searching for language. "Even when the world burns." Zuri blinked, startled. "That's surprisingly deep for someone who doesn't do emotion." "I wasn't always empty." The confession hung between them, fragile and exposed. "What hollowed you out?" she asked gently. He stirred his coffee, gaze distant. "Choices." One word carrying the gravity of blood, betrayal, violence she couldn't begin to comprehend. Zuri wanted to dig deeper to understand, but she felt his barriers, thick as concrete, cold as steel, so she pivoted. "I'm glad you come here. You don't disrupt the peace." His eyes snapped to hers. "I would never bring harm to you." The intensity in his declaration made her pulse quicken. "I didn't suggest you would." He cleared his throat, uncomfortable with his own transparency. "People question why I come here daily." "Do they?" She smiled. "And why do you?" His response came without hesitation. "You." Zuri froze, the fog outside thickened to wool. The studio lights glowed amber against the gray afternoon, and between them something transformed. Something neither knew how to label, not friendship, not yet love, but something rare, something lethal. When Minseo rose to leave, he paused at her counter. Zuri, she looked up. Yes. Do you fear me? The question surprised her, but her answer came naturally. If I feared you, I wouldn't pour your coffee every morning. Something in him fractured, permafrost thawing after years of winter. He bowed his head slightly, almost vulnerable. Tomorrow, then. Always. He left quietly, coat brushing the doorframe. Zuri returned to her painting, unaware that Minseo had just made a silent promise. He would shield her from everything, no matter the cost. 4 weeks of tranquility. 4 weeks of painting, surveying, and careful conversations, and something dangerous blooming between them. Then the door exploded open. The same 4 men from before, but angrier now, emboldened. The leader pointed at Zuri with rage distorting his features. You embarrassed us, you foreign. Zuri set down her palette knife slowly. I asked you to respect my studio. You declined. Respect? He barked laughter. You think we'll forget that? One of them grabbed a ceramic sculpture and hurled it against the wall. Fragments scattered like shattered bone. Customers retreated, phones recording, but too terrified to act. Leave now, Zuri's voice was granite. The second man charged forward, seized her arm hard enough to bruise. You talk too much. She tried to break free like before, but the third man captured her other wrist, slamming her against the wall. Her breath hitched. This was different. Worse. Lethal. Let's see how brave you are now, the leader hissed, face invading her space, breath reeking of soju and malice. Release me. Make us. Then the temperature plummeted. A shadow consumed the doorway, blocking the light. Remove your hands immediately. Zuri's eyes widened. Minseo stood at the entrance. No coat today, just a black shirt with sleeves pushed up, revealing corded forearms and old wounds. His expression wasn't furious. Fury would have been merciful. This was controlled, Arctic wrath. The kind that made grown men pray. The leader swallowed hard. You're touching her. 3 words spoken so softly they barely disturbed the air, but each syllable carried the weight of execution. Let go. The men hesitated. That was their fatal error. Minseo moved, not like a human, like something engineered for destruction, forged by war, perfected by darkness. He grabbed the nearest thug by the throat and drove him through a wooden table hard enough to splinter it. Paint jars exploded. Brushes flew. The second man swung desperately. Minseo blocked effortlessly, twisted the wrist until cartilage snapped. The man shrieked. Someone fled the studio. Someone else was sobbing, but Minseo didn't stop. The leader produced a switchblade. Minseo, Zuri gasped, but his eyes had already shifted. From cold calculation to absolute predatory focus. He disarmed the man with a single strike, then pinned him to the floor with his knee against the spine. Don't ever approach her again, the man choked. Okay, we won't, please. Minseo released him. The thug collapsed, gasping. His companions dragged themselves upright, and all 4 escaped like death itself was chasing them. Silence descended, oppressive and thick. Minseo turned slowly toward Zuri. His hardened mask cracked when he saw the purple bruise forming on her wrist. Small, but enough to make him look like he wanted to hunt them down and finish what he'd started. He approached carefully, voice trembling. They marked you. Minseo, I'm fine. He took her hand like it was made of porcelain. His thumb ghosted over the bruise with impossible gentleness. I should have arrived sooner, he whispered, guilt shredding each word. I should have. You saved me. He closed his eyes briefly, relief drowning. I can't lose you. Zuri's breath caught. Lose her? Since when had she become that essential? She touched his chest, hesitant. Minseo. He opened his eyes. For the first time, she saw something raw and panicked. Not the feared enforcer. Not the ghost stories whispered in back alleys. Just a man terrified of caring too deeply. You're the only clean thing in my life, he admitted, voice rough. If something happened to you, his voice fractured. For a man like him, that was a complete confession. Zuri squeezed his hand, and Minseo, lethal, powerful Minseo, exhaled like she just rescued his soul instead of the other way around. 5 days passed. Minseo didn't come to the studio. Not the next morning. Not the day after. Not once. Zuri tried to ignore the hollow ache in her chest, the way she kept glancing at booth 12, expecting to see him hunched there with his impenetrable expression. But it remained vacant. On the 5th evening, she closed early. Her mind was chaos, her heart restless. As she locked the entrance, a sleek silver sedan parked against the curb caught her attention. Tinted windows, engine humming softly. The back door opened. Minseo emerged. He looked exhausted. Shadows under his eyes, tension carved into his shoulders, heaviness in his every gesture like he'd been fighting wars she couldn't witness. Minseo! He walked to her without speaking. stopped close enough that she could see the quiet storm raging in his eyes. I stayed away, he said softly, so I wouldn't frighten you. Frighten me, you? What I did? He swallowed, jaw tight. You witnessed a side of me I never wanted you to see. Zuri shook her head. You protected me. That's not all I did. His voice turned harsh. I lost control. That's dangerous for someone like me. Minseo, you're human too. No, he stepped back. I'm not like you. My world isn't like yours. Violence is currency where I exist. He shook his head. I shouldn't have let my feelings dictate my actions. Zuri's heart stuttered. His feelings. Minseo, are you saying you did all that because? Yes. Immediate, painfully honest. Silence pressed around them. His eyes softened, more vulnerable than she'd ever witnessed. I don't want anything to touch you, ever. Her heart ached at the sincerity bleeding through his words. Then he took a breath, bracing himself like a man preparing for battle. I came to ask you something. What is it? He looked her straight in the eyes. Zuri, I want to marry you. The world tilted, her knees weakened. What, Minseo, what are you? I want you in my life, he said firmly. I want you protected, safe beside me. But marriage, her voice trembled. You barely know me. He shook his head slowly. I know your fire, I know your spirit, I know your strength, and I know that when you're near me, I become more than what I am. She stared, stunned. I know, he continued quietly, that if something happened to you because of my world, I would never survive it. His voice cracked on the last word. She'd never seen him like this. Not fierce, not cold. Just terrified of losing someone who'd brought oxygen into his suffocating existence. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small black box, opened it. Inside sat a simple platinum band. Nothing ostentatious, nothing theatrical, just sincere. I'm not giving you this because I want to possess you, he said softly. I'm giving you this because losing you would destroy me and I don't get destroyed. Zuri's breath shuddered. Minseo, why so sudden? Because the world I inhabit doesn't give second chances. He stepped closer. If danger comes, and it will, I want you under my name, my protection, my roof. I'm not afraid of you or your world. But marriage is the only way I know how to keep you breathing. Silence. Zuri stared at the ring, at this lethal man crumbling before her, walls finally collapsing. He wasn't proposing out of ownership or control. He was proposing because he had no other vocabulary for love, deep, raw, terrified love. Finally, she lifted her trembling hand and placed it over his. Yes, she whispered. His eyes widened like he hadn't dared believe. You said yes. Yes, she smiled through tears. I want to be with you too. Minseo exhaled shakily, a sound like relief, like gratitude, like answered prayer. He slid the ring onto her finger with trembling hands. Zuri, he murmured, voice breaking. You have no idea what this means. Then he pulled her into his arms, gentle, careful, protective. She buried her face against his chest, feeling his heart hammer against her cheek. For a moment, the world stood still. Two souls finding home in each other, a home stronger than fear, stronger than danger, stronger than fate. The wedding was intimate, just witnesses from Minseo's organization and 3 bewildered friends from Zuri's side. The ceremony lasted 23 minutes. No orchestra, no elaborate floral arrangements, no grandiose decorations. Just 2 people standing face to face, vowing something far greater than either fully comprehended. When the officiant said, "You may kiss your bride," Minseo froze. His eyes softened, but his hands trembled slightly. He didn't kiss her. Instead, he touched her face with gentle fingers, eyes locked with hers as if asking silently, "Am I allowed?" She smiled nervously. "We can wait." Relief flooded his features. The drive to his high-rise was quiet. Minseo sat rigidly, one hand gripping his knee. His eyes kept drifting toward her, then away, like looking too long might break something precious inside him. Zuri clutched her small bouquet of white lilies, heart pounding. Married. She was married to a man who commanded terror wherever he moved, yet held her like she was constructed from spun glass. When the elevator doors opened to his penthouse, Zuri stepped into another dimension. Vaulted ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline, warm lights reflecting off polished marble. It felt like entering a fantasy. Minseo removed his jacket slowly, carefully. "Are you comfortable here?" "It's breathtaking," she whispered. He guided her to the balcony. City lights sparkled below like captured constellations. Cool night air wrapped around them. "Zuri," his voice was low, serious. "I need you to understand something." She turned to him. "I've done unforgivable things." He looked down at his hands. "These hands, they're stained." She took his hands in hers, holding them gently. "Then let me help you clean them." His breath caught. No one had ever offered him absolution, ever. You don't understand what you're saying. I understand exactly what I'm saying. She squeezed tighter. You're more than your history, Minseo. You're more than what you've done. Something inside him shattered. He pulled her close, forehead pressed to hers, breathing her in like she was his last breath. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Maybe not, but you have me anyway. He kissed her then, soft, tentative, like he was afraid she might vanish if he pressed too hard. When they finally pulled apart, his eyes glistened. I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I can be the man you believe I am. You already are, she said simply. And in that moment, beneath city lights and stars, Choi Minseo fell completely, irrevocably, catastrophically in love. 3 weeks of peace. 3 weeks of waking beside each other, learning how to be married, learning how to be ordinary, then everything exploded. Zuri was sketching in the penthouse when Minseo burst through the door, face urgent, eyes sharp with danger. Pack nothing, we leave immediately. What's wrong? The Beak Syndicate, they discovered you. His voice was ice. They're coming. Before she could respond, the window shattered. Glass rained down. Minseo shielded her body with his, shards slicing his back. He didn't flinch. Stay behind me. He commanded. Gunshots echoed from below. Shouts. Chaos. Minseo grabbed his phone, barked orders in rapid Korean. Then he pulled Zuri toward a concealed exit in the wall, a door she'd never noticed existed. Where are we going? Somewhere they can't reach you. Move. They descended narrow emergency stairs, fluorescent lighting flickering overhead. Zuri's heart hammered so violently she thought it might rupture. At the bottom, a black SUV waited, engine running. Minseo's second in command, a scarred man named T1, sat in the driver's seat. Go, now, Minseo ordered. They tore through back streets, tires screaming. Zuri gripped the door handle, trying to process what just happened. Who is the Beak Syndicate? She asked. Minseo's jaw tightened. My enemies, they've been waiting for leverage. He looked at her, anguish flickering across his face. You're my leverage now. The words should have felt romantic. Instead, they felt like a death warrant. Safe House was a cottage 3 hours outside Seoul, surrounded by dense mountain forest. T1 posted guards at every entrance before disappearing into the trees. Inside, Zuri sat on a worn sofa while Minseo paced like a caged predator. This is my fault, he muttered. I should have anticipated they'd target you. I should have, Minseo. She stood, crossing to him. This isn't your fault. Yes, it is. He grabbed her shoulders, not hard, but desperate. Everything I touch gets obliterated. His voice cracked. I can't let them hurt you. They won't. You don't understand. His eyes were wild now, terrified. The Beak Syndicate doesn't negotiate. They don't show compassion if they get their hands on you. He couldn't finish the sentence. Zuri cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. Then we fight together. No, he pulled away. You don't fight. You stay hidden while you what? Go back and get yourself killed. If that's what it takes. No. She grabbed his shirt, tears streaming now. You don't get to marry me and then sacrifice yourself. That's not how this works. He stared at her, stunned by her fury. You said I was your reason, she continued, voice shaking. Well, you're mine too, so we either survive this together or we don't survive at all. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he pulled her into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe. I love you, he whispered into her hair. God help me, I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too, she whispered back. So let's figure this out together. 4 days passed in tense silence. Minseo made calls, strategized, gathered intelligence. Zuri watched him transform back into the cold, calculating man she'd first met. But at night, when he thought she was asleep, she felt him hold her tighter, heard him whisper prayers in Korean she didn't understand. On the 5th morning, T1 burst in. They found us. Minseo stood immediately. How long? 15 minutes, maybe less. Zuri's blood turned to ice. Minseo turned to her, face carved from stone. There's an escape tunnel through the basement. T1 will take you. I'm not leaving you. Zuri, no, she stood resolute. We're together, that's final. He looked like he wanted to argue, then his phone rang, unknown number. He answered. Who is this? A cold voice responded in Korean. Minseo's face went white. What did they say? Zuri asked. He hung up slowly. They want to meet, just me. If I come alone, they'll leave you out of it. That's a trap. I know. So you're not going. He met her eyes. I have to. Minseo, if I don't, they'll hunt us forever. They'll find you eventually. He took her hands. This is the only way. The only way for you to die. Maybe, he smiled sadly. But you'll be safe, that's all that matters. Zuri's vision blurred with tears. You promised we'd do this together. I lied. He kissed her forehead. I'm so sorry. Before she could stop him, he was gone. The meeting point was an abandoned factory on the outskirts. Minseo arrived alone as instructed. Moonlight filtered through broken skylights, casting skeletal shadows. The Beak Syndicate leader stood in the center, an elderly man with white hair and eyes like death. "Choi Minseo," he said. "Finally, you show respect." "Where is she?" The old man smiled. "Your wife, safe for now." Minseo's fists clenched. "You said if I came alone." "I lied." The old man gestured. Two men dragged Zuri from the shadows, hands bound, mouth gagged. Minseo's world stopped. "Now," the patriarch continued, "you have a choice, your empire or the girl, choose wisely." Minseo looked at Zuri. Their eyes met across the darkness. She shook her head frantically, trying to tell him to save himself, but he'd already decided. He dropped his weapon. "Her," he said quietly. "I choose her." The patriarch laughed. "You give up everything for this girl." "Everything." Minseo stepped forward. "Let her go and I'll walk away from all of it. The territory, the business, all of it." "Minseo, no." T1's voice crackled through an earpiece Minseo had hidden, but Minseo pulled it out, crushed it under his heel. The patriarch studied him, then smiled coldly. "You're weak, just like I thought." He raised his hand. His men raised their guns. Then chaos erupted. T1 and Minseo's loyalists stormed the factory from every entrance. Gunfire exploded. Minseo dove toward Zuri, cutting her bonds with a blade from his boot. "Run," he shouted, but she grabbed his hand instead. "Not without you." They ran together, bullets tearing through the air. T1 provided cover, neutralizing Beak's soldiers one by one. At the exit, the patriarch blocked their path. "You think you can just leave?" he snarled. Minseo stepped in front of Zuri. "Watch me." The old man pulled a gun. T1 fired first. The patriarch collapsed. "Go," T1 shouted. "I'll handle the rest." Minseo hesitated. "T1, I said go." They ran into the night, leaving everything behind. 8 months later, a coastal village, small, quiet, forgotten by the world. Zuri stood in their modest home, stirring stew on the stove. Through the window, she could see Minseo in his workshop, hands shaping wood with the same precision he'd once used for violence. He'd opened a furniture shop. Nothing fancy, just honest work with honest hands. She touched her swollen belly, feeling their baby move inside. That evening, Minseo came in smelling of sawdust and pine. He kissed her cheek, then froze when he saw her expression. "What's wrong?" She took his hand, placed it on her stomach. "Are you ready to be a father?" His eyes widened, then filled with tears. He dropped to his knees, pressing his forehead to her belly. "I'll be better for you," he whispered to their unborn child. "I promise I'll be the man your mother believes I can be." Zuri stroked his hair, her own tears falling. Outside, the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet. Two shadows merged in the window, a man who'd learned to create instead of destroy, and a woman who'd taught him that love was stronger than violence. "They say monsters